Welcome, everyone. This is our first really official show. We're calling it, and it's a perfect title, which I want to thank Margaret, the president of Power Over Parkinson's, a close friend, and one of the best advocates I've seen in my 6 years here. We're calling this show the Parkinson's Policy Podcast because we have been friends for a long time, and we both, again, are on our own journey too. She'll tell you a little bit about her work, and as you know, if you know me by now, everyone listening, and please share this and support also Power Over Parkinson. But I'm with TogetherForSharon.com. I lost my mother, sadly, it's 6 years now, 1/1/2020, due to Parkinson's, and I decided to advocate for everyone, including Margaret's dad and everyone listening, and also your families, because I don't feel anyone should ever feel alone in this fight for a cure. But policy is something I feel personally as an attorney, advocate, and son who lost a loved one due to Parkinson's there's not enough. So we got together and going to throw the show to my co-host Margaret to also introduce her. But I feel that it's so unique because and I'm gonna, if you don't like it, everyone write me personally, but it's the first show and literally the only show that's gonna completely cover politics, except for positive politics if that's possible, but also the national plan, what happened, where is it, and how do we get it back?
Absolutely. Thank you, George. So I want to reiterate, if you don't like it, email George. If you like it, email me.
Love it.
Just kidding. We're a team. I'm so happy to be doing this with you, George. As George noted, and in our prior interviews, if anyone has watched our interviews before, we are friends and advocates in partnership, both having had a parent and have a parent with Parkinson's. For those of you who don't know, I am Margaret Preston, president of Power for Parkinson's, and we started about 7 years ago after my own father's diagnosis with Parkinson's. He's almost 8 years in now. We didn't find a lot of resources right here in Central Virginia, and as such, created the foundation to help serve and support those living with the disease in Central Virginia through all free programming that includes education, exercise, wellness, socialization, all the things we think it takes to live well with the disease. So again, after his diagnosis, we just wanted to fill that gap to provide a support and soft landing place for those diagnosed here in the Central Virginia area. Since then, we've created various online content, partnered with folks like George, and trying to kind of increase our tentacles and our reach across the area and region. So we're so excited to be able to partner with George and talk a little bit more about the advocacy side. Some of our folks might know and maybe have joined us on the Commonwealth State Capitol here in Virginia, but we led our first state advocacy day last February in 2025. Where advocates, patients, caregivers met with their representatives here in the Commonwealth to create advocacy. So our hope is to take that bite-sized momentum and really expand upon it and ask the questions I think a lot of us want to know, and ultimately create a little bit more awareness and propel advocacy.
Have to be honest with everyone, as I always am, it's not easy to do a show like this because you have to get in touch with politicians. And Margaret has been working and I behind the scenes vigorously and emailing, messaging, calling, and also writing legislators and senators and also representatives, local, city, county, throughout the country. It's not just about our own states. Obviously, it's tough when you click on a button to contact a representative and it says, if you're not in my zip code, go to hell. So that's been tough, but the letter works for that. And it's just got to brag a little how incredible Margaret's been since my journey. She's been doing this a year, I guess now. I didn't even know that. I always say you're doing it for decades, but a year after I started to get into this world, even though it's not one that you want to be, it is one that I'm honored to be a part of. But she has always been open arms and really there for me 24/7, literally. And I don't think some days I get through this without my family support, but also individuals like Margaret, Power Over Parkinson's. And see, I have to keep saying that because it's just, again, I always wish everybody was 100% in together, but I'm honored that the individuals I've located and found and come into my heart have always been just and simply inspiring and incredible. But we shift our focus now to the important topics. I've had the honor on my podcast, Q&A with Sharon and George, and the Together for Sharon podcast to have U.S. senators and some incredible, I don't even know how, but I had the honor to be in the room with a lot of the sponsors from the bill. Thanks to the Michael J. Fox Foundation last March. I'll be back at it again in D.C. My wife, Greta, will be joining me, and I'm hoping Margaret should be able to at least come by and need a photo at the Capitol. But also, as an attorney in Washington and Florida, I see a lot of lack of awareness, but also tough to get responses. So I wanted to ask Margaret too, how her journey is just to get the show started as we finally are doing the intro together. How has that been for you?
Yeah, well, I want to echo the same sentiment right back to you, George. Is if anybody's been on our Pop Profile series, one of our most recent interviews was with George, and it's aptly titled "No Stone Left Unturned." So I think it echoes George's work in honor of his mother. He really has gone through every avenue, every aspect of creating awareness, really on a global platform. So I am humbled and privileged to be able to do this series with George because he's truly a giant in this space. Whereas I'm just kind of right here in Central Virginia. So I'm so enthusiastic about being able to ask the questions that I think folks want to know, navigate the system, if you will. I think at times we all could be a little bit frustrated, but we just kind of have to figure out a way. And that's what George and I have been doing behind the scenes, find a way to get in touch with our representatives, going through their online contact system, following up. We all know they're certainly busy, but so are we as advocates advocating for those with Parkinson. So I think, as we know, the squeaky wheel certainly gets the attention. And it's our goal to really create more advocacy among lawmakers, because that's ultimately going to be the thing that affects change in terms of funding, research, all the things we know that are needed to kind of head towards the cure, which of course is the goal for all of us. So again, I think I'm privileged to be able to work with George because George has a unique understanding of how to get in touch with lawmakers, be heard in a way that's respectful and certainly a collaborative nature. So, my journey on this side is probably similar to George's, where we're just in the process of contacting lawmakers, kind of explaining the why. And of course, the why is on behalf of our Parkinson's community. That's why we want to bring folks on our show to talk about, potentially the national plan, where it is, really just educate lawmakers on the disease, because we know if you're not necessarily touched by the disease, you don't know a lot about it. But I think lawmakers will be quite surprised of its prevalence and increasing diagnosis rate. So there's so much to talk about, and we will be very grateful to be able to talk with those who, again, can really affect change in our nation as it relates to Parkinson's and neurological disorders.
Yeah, I also think the show's kind of a lesson for me. I'm sure you might agree that we're still learning every day, no matter what. I always joke and say, I have a lot of master's degrees, PhD in law, but I still have a lot to learn, and we learn together. But also, this is a show that I can't say for all the other ones I've been a part of, but you can also get involved, and that's a big, real key. So we hope to have actual legislators on the show. That's the main goal, and senators, and also individuals in policy, different organizations. But at the end of the show, each show, I'll remind you, and Margaret will too, that you need to also, and it's a really call to action, we need everyone to also reach out to their legislator. I always say I can write 100 letters, which I have, but they might go unheard. And then also you add Margaret adding 100. Well, now someone might take heed and listen. And then if we have everyone out there too, even write them and say, tell them to come on our show and send us questions. We'd be happy to have them on as well. But as Margaret said, we have to figure out what happened to the national plan. I remember speaking to a young lady, young individual who we call family, Ali Signorelli. She was actually at Target, and for some reason I was on the phone, and we both almost really cried the day we heard it was passed. Me more because I wanted to help people battling today, But I thought of my mother, and unfortunately she didn't make it. Her battle lost, so she couldn't see this day. That was over a year ago, and then as of today, there's still nothing. The council hasn't been seated. I was honored to, and I don't talk about a lot, but I had 40 nominations, including Margaret, for the committee. But I'd rather know who didn't make it or did, so we can move forward.
Mhm.
Still not seated. Then I went to, DC. Some of the asks they said were, to please seat the council. Number two, to help fund the NIH, which hope we'll be able to get on our show, because they are the number one leading individuals and scientists that are working 24/7 behind the scenes, which we want to bring them into the forefront. So you don't just see them in the lab, but they're the ones that need the funding to find a cure, or even to stop the progression, or to reverse it, or anything. And then finally, the big one, which Margaret, I'll throw to you, about environment, which is really what I think is why my mother was diagnosed due to environment. But banning things like paraquat was one of the third things we asked our politicians, which is really a simple thing, and it's banned in every country except the U.S. and Australia.
Yeah, before I jump on that, I wanted to reiterate what George said. I think, ultimately our show, while we hope to have lawmakers and decision makers here, I think ultimately we hope that all of our listeners take action, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take all of us as a cohesive, collective body of those who have been touched by Parkinson's, who have Parkinson's, et cetera, to take action. And what does that mean? It could be going to advocacy days. It could just be part of even clinical trials, sharing what Parkinson's is with a neighbor. It could be at a micro level or a macro level. But our hope is to instill a little bit of drive and action in our listeners to kind of share their story, and again continue to elevate the awareness right here in our nation. But I think, as George noted, another prong of what we want to discuss a little bit more is, of course, all the environmental factors. We've all hopefully have had a chance to read Ending Parkinson's, and now the Parkinson's plan that has recently come out. And there's, kind of indisputable evidence of the environmental factors, whether it's water contamination, what's in our food, et cetera. I think there's a lot of words we can't pronounce and chemicals that shouldn't be on our produce. And I think those are other discussion points for our show, and lawmakers who can help remove some of these contaminants that should have no place in our environment. Again, they've been banned in many other developed countries except ours. And of course, it all begs the question why. So George and I hope to kind of expand on that and really raise the flag on that, because to me, none of us should be tolerating contaminants in our water or our food.
Yeah, when I started my journey, I had specific topics, whether to write or to blog or just to, talk about. This is actually the most important one out of all of them. And this is I won't say I'm done after this, but really, if I could, and Margaret could be a major factor in pushing this national plan forward, then this show is not only going to change the world, but also help ignite an important topic that, again, I don't personally see anywhere. And obviously, I see people posting, which is great, but I don't see anyone have an actual show on the topic, and we can have those individuals on too. But we really have to do this everyone together. And as we wrap up, again, I just want to thank Margaret for her time, patience, and friendship on this. And I think together we'll make some waves. Hopefully we'll bring a tidal wave with everyone out there supporting us, but we're all in this together. The only goal we have is to see more awareness and have the government fund that. Also, to start getting research. I've had many scientists around the world, specifically the U.S., state that they can't even do anymore as of now because the funding stopped. And finally, to protect our own citizens. How do you not ban? The show won't be, it'll be more, one side, because we're all on the same side, which is we want to cure, but we will have both sides. We will have all sides. Everyone's welcome. There's no bias here, because, again, it's just a topic that I'm glad I can say isn't something that we're all fighting. It's literally, even through the Senate and the House, majorities passed flying colors in record time when it was finally looked at to get the law in December. last year. So now we need to reach out to the current administration and the future ones, and hopefully we won't have to because it'll already be implemented. But as we wrap up, I wanted to send it again back to Margaret for any conclusion or final comments for the first show or intro show ever to the Parkinson's Policy Podcast.
Yeah, well, we're excited to see everyone and take everyone along this journey. I think George and I have our first interview lined up for next week. So we're excited to deliver hopefully this meaningful content that'll make a wave that you'll all join us on. And we look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for listening. Please share this. Please support this show, but also Power Over Parkinson's doing incredible things, not just in her state, in my opinion, but around the world. And again, thank you to everyone out there, because if we didn't have your support and you sharing this, really contacting your legislators, it's a start. And if we just get that start, it'll continue to grow. It's a movement. And like I said, even I had a mayor on recently. We need the mayors. We need the city council men and women. We need the governors, which would be beautiful, working on that. We have some incredible guests to come. And again, Margaret and I will keep working till we get the president, hopefully someday. If not this one, the next one on the show. So thanks, everyone. Thank you, Margaret. And I look forward to many more thank yous and work together, advocating not just for the national plan, but for all of you. This has been the first ever introduction to Parkinson's Policy Podcast. I'm Sharon St. George, Dr. George Ackerman. This is my co-host, Margaret Preston from Power Over Parkinson. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon, and we love you.
Thank you.